to review you.
It's great.
Yeah, okay. I had nothing else. Alright, so I wanted to talk about Daredevil with some friends, so I brought in Drew and Brandon. I mean, Brandon and Drew.
Sure.
Yeah, to review Daredevil, because they've seen Daredevil. And I think the basic consensus is we really liked it.
I really liked it. I felt it was a little bit too easy to binge watch. So those who just want to watch one episode, good luck.
Like one a day. What Brandon and I did, we watched one a day. Like, what did you want?
Yeah, we made an agreement to do one a day in order to not just be like, oh, spoilers, because it's hard to take in a whole Netflix series and all the plot points all in just in the 13 or so hours that it runs throughout each episode. Because episodes
I binged it a few nights and got it done. It was so good.
Looking at it, it did seem like it was kind of a long movie on its own. It could work as just like a really long movie.
It could work as a really long movie. To be kind of general, not to spoil anything,
Yeah.
I feel like the main villain had an ego as big as my hair. But he was very likable.
Compared to the fact that he had no hair.
I liked him maybe a little better than Daredevil or his alternative personality or whatnot,
Yeah.
Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, and I'm not going to mention the name yet. And also, I felt like some of the less important villains might have been like kind of cast aside a little too easily. Felt like they could have done a little better job on explaining them.
But the thing is, they were building up, and it's not a spoiler who the villain is, though. They were building up Fisk so much that I think I was okay with the fact that they took out the other villains easily. Like, I thought it was showing the real threat that Fisk was.
The whole series was basically a contrast between, hey, it's Matt Murdock and his struggle, and also between
Wilson
Fisk and his struggle
Mm-hmm.
to get what they want.
And to kind of go into what Drew is saying, the thing about Wilson Fisk, played amazingly by Vincent D'Onofrio in this, was that he's a horrible human being, he's a monster, but at the same time, you really sympathize with this character because he's doing horrible things, but he's also, it's a love story with the villain, and you're kind of rooting for him to get the girl. It's so weird.
I feel like he's a little bit more likable than Daredevil, which is kind of a horrible thing to say, but I felt like he's a little bit more developed. Matt is a little underdeveloped. Daredevil might need a little bit more with, because it's kind of like a Matt Daredevil contrast with the church scenes, and I feel like maybe they needed to emphasize that a tad bit more to add more depth to his internal struggle.
Mm-hmm. Like, they were doing pretty well with Matt in the first 3 episodes, but once they introduced Fisk, they seemed to be more focused on Fisk's character.
I know, Fisk basically kind of stole the show. I think part of it was the writing was pretty good, but the actor was
you were really
a big part of the
I was very hyped when Vincent D'Onofrio was announced, because Vincent D'Onofrio loves basically exploring characters. He has a lot of fun working with characters and just being crazy just a lot of the time.
Love guy for Men in Black.
Yeah.
the side henchman of
Wesley.
Vincent D'Onofrio. Not very good with names. I don't know why I didn't remember Wesley's name. But he was almost as equally likable. I would actually place him. I would place him as likable as I like Daredevil, but Fisk. I like him better.
But yeah, you hated. Oh, sorry.
Both of them.
You hated Wesley.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Drew. I hated Wesley. Wesley was just the slimiest manipulator.
But that's a good thing, isn't it?
No.
I liked Wesley.
Trying to paint Fisk as this figure, and then you have Wesley like there in the background.
Towards the end, Wesley did have a scene that I didn't quite like.
Because he did something stupid.
He did something really stupid, which we will
showed
spoil
it
later.
Yeah, but let's get on. Should we talk about the comparisons with the Affleck one? Because I think that's kind of unavoidable.
No.
Sure.
Alright.
Let's just say that there was not a lot of development in the in that Daredevil. And the bad guys are corny.
There was a distinct lack of Colin Farrell. I'm vastly disappointed.
I don't even remember the villain's name.
Bullseye.
Bullseye. Oh yeah, that was a really.
Well, they were trying to shove 4 people's story arcs into one movie that's about 2 hours.
Mhm.
And Netflix, you can have is basically a TV series wide of just character development after character development. So it did suffer in that lack,
But also, I think the tone of this really set it apart. It did set it apart from the other Marvel movies, because this isn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think this was a big risk to do something this dark. Like, the first episode has to deal with sex trafficking in the beginning of it.
they never say sex trafficking.
That's what it was.
Human trafficking is sex trafficking.
Okay,
Who cares?
that's what it was.
I felt every single hit, especially in the beginning during the fight
When he's
scenes.
just pummeling the guy.
And just like Daredevil's like
Well, that was
doing pretty well, and then all of a sudden the other guy gets the upper hand. You're kind of like at the edge of your seat, and I'm like, they did that pretty well. They made him seem like a human being.
Well, yeah, that's what I liked about the whole thing. Every single fight scene, you didn't know who was going to win, because it felt a lot more human than anything we've seen in the previously established
He tires.
Marvel Universe. He
easily.
tires. He doesn't have armor.
Like, there's a really good shot in the second episode, right?
God,
Where it's a single shot, and he's fighting the Russians, and you clearly see he's also getting really, really tired. So you don't know if he's going to beat the Russians or not. It actually comes out really close.
Yeah, he gets hit, but he comes up, but not well.
It's like, it's a real fight, because you know how in a lot of superhero movies people will go down in one punch. This is a little bit more realistic, where people will not go down with just one single punch.
Like there was a scene where he was up and he's just like struggling to do that last shot to get the guy down. He goes like that, and then his arms are like lengthy and his shoulders all decompressed, and he's like, it's kind of like with boxing where it's like 1, 2, and then like you get hit in the chin too much and your shoulders tense up. They showed all of that.
Being his father being a boxer, I think they probably did a lot of research in regards to fighting to his style.
I could see that.
Curious.
And you were saying, like, the person that the father fights, Kree, he's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Carl, Real, yeah. The Absorbing Man, if anyone's not watching.
I don't watch that show.
No group does anyone.
You're saying it's getting good, though.
Yeah.
So should we talk about Charlie Cox as Murdoch? You thought he was underdeveloped, but what do you think?
Okay, the actor was pretty good. It's really hard when you throw in an actor like the guy who plays Wilson Fisk, who's just like super into his character, and it's like, it's almost like the guy who plays Matt Murdock is like a B, and the Wilson Fisk character is like
The cherry.
an A minus, like almost like A plus quality actor, like pretty up there, not completely, but it's just like that's when casting is really important when you have a series like that.
I didn't dislike Charlie Cox. Actually, I did kind of like him, but he becomes very forgettable after a while, and I think that it's not entirely his fault. It is the fault of the ensemble cast.
I liked a lot of the ensemble cast and being everything.
Okay.
He has this huge task. He's playing a blind man.
And he does that well.
He's obviously not blind.
I know.
And they probably more than likely did a lot of research
He did
into
well with
probably
that.
doing the movements and the realism, but at the same time, you're the blind man who can see, so that kind of
Okay.
wears on Daredevil.
Who do you like better, Matt Murdock or Foggy?
I actually
Foggy's the more
Foggy.
likable character. He's realistic. You know, when he gets pissed at Matt and stuff, that's realistic.
He's like, I think one of my favorite episodes is Nelson versus Murdoch, and we're gonna get into spoilers right now.
Okay.
When
Let's
Foggy
wrap it.
finds out, I kind of knew this was coming, when Foggy finds out that Matt is Daredevil, the whole episode, there's flashbacks to when they're first met, but there's also a heated conversation about why did you keep this from me? I would have done the same for you. And I think Foggy has my favorite line in it where he's like, "Are you even blind?" Kind of. How many fingers am I holding up? One. So I think that was my favorite part of that episode, I think.
Did you not like
Maybe-
the avocados that long?
They reused that line later on, which I thought was good
Yeah.
to use parts. You know, it felt more real when you link episodes like that, even if it's by a single line.
Right.
I really like the scene where he met Foggy with the flashback, and they're playing like "I can be your hero, baby." In the background is like this subtle thing. I thought it was like a dumb touch, but like
There's a lot of Easter eggs in the show as Marvel does, but there was an Elektra reference which I caught. Where Foggy and Matt are like, "What happened to that Greek girl you were dating, Matt?" "Oh, she just disappeared." Season 2. Yeah, that's my theory. Elektra Bullseye will show up in season 2, but you and I were talking about people you like to see. I was saying Punisher. You were.
I kind of wanted Moon Knight. I feel like he'd be an interesting character. He's very Batman-esque, and I've seen the Punisher. But I don't know. The Punisher is
He fits
very
the tone.
Daredevil. He could be a good, basically, Clash for Daredevil being this, "Oh, I'm not going to kill anybody," and then you have Punisher, who will kill everybody to get what he wants, which is...
Balde does.
Yeah, Punisher and Daredevil, I think probably there'd be a scene where Daredevil kicks him out or whatever, but that's all like what season 2 might be. I think we should focus more on
The Fisk murder.
the door slam.
Oh, the door slam.
Oh,
That I don't think it got as brutal as after that. Do you?
Yeah, I felt like
There was, I don't know, Nobu fight. Nobu fight hurt.
That was pretty bad.
Like on a physical.
when you're writing, even though it was in the beginning of this series, it can be very difficult to write something that doesn't seem like to slow down too much, and like people lose interest when you have such a high point.
Yeah.
Like that was such a high point. It's really hard to have another scene that like combats with that and like is almost even with that, or even
Well,
So,
better.
like,
from episode 1 to on, they kept doing more and more violent things to the point where, like, what are they gonna do next? How are they gonna top that? You have Daredevil literally being stabbed a bunch of times,
By
quite
Nobu.
brutally.
that
It's like
was
basically
that
the
was kind of
comments.
hard. That was
Yeah.
pretty hard to watch.
It was very.
But-
And they're pulling him, and he's screaming.
And there's Fisk, who decapitates a man who interrupted his date. That's it. Like the setup is this Russian guy is trying to ask Fisk for help, and he finds out where Fisk is. And Fisk is in this restaurant with his date, and everyone there is his bodyguard. Everyone in the background, and the Russian guy comes in saying, "Fisk, please help my brother and me." And Vanessa is like, "I don't know what's going on. This is weird." She leaves, and Fisk has Wesley take the Russian out to like a parking lot or something, and he gets a call from Fisk like, "Guy's on the passenger side," and Fisk just drags the Russian outside of the car and starts beating the crap out of him.
And then slams the door again, slams the door again, and
On his
again,
head.
and again, and again. Doesn't completely decapitate him.
It's
which
nowhere near
almost
clean
adds
decapitation.
more. Like, no, but when you see the body later on when it's laid on the table,
Yeah,
you see
no.
a wedge
Oh,
with the
yeah.
neck.
You're
You see
right.
his
You know.
brain fall out.
You do. You see the brain fall. Krang! No.
It's gonna be probably like. It's still such a dark contrast between other things that are happening.
And somewhere, do you want to say the line?
And somewhere there's a tree and a raccoon dancing in space.
That's like Kenny had a running joke with us when watching the show. Like every time something violent came up, we were like, "It's somewhere in outer space with a tree dancing to Michael Jackson."
Somewhere.
Somewhere in this same universe.